Greetings, friends! Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast. Welcome back to the October Mega Marathon.
Oh my God, we're back.
You guys know the deal. Every year, the month of October, a darkness falls across the pod. We walk to the edge of the horror beast, and then we jump in balls first into everything beautiful horror film. 31 days this month. 31 goddamn pods. It's our favorite time of the year. This is our Super Bowl, Christmas, first time getting laid, all of the most important things rolled into one. If you are a keen-eyed listener, you will see I added The Omen into the feed again yesterday so that you can have the full franchise. But that's an old episode. Today we are starting our October Mega Marathon. You guys know the deal. We always start off covering some franchises for the first half of the month. I think it's one of my favorite things we do is to talk about a franchise in its entirety. And the first franchise this year is a real banger, The Omen. So today's movie starting the first, goddamn, I can't believe it's here. You'll see Pappy behind me on YouTube. He's from my horror movie. I'm glad he dropped out of the election. Thanks, Pappy. No. We realized halfway through filming that Pappy looks like Joe Biden, and it kind of made it scarier. Neither here nor there. Today we're starting with Damien, the Omen II, one of the best horror sequels ever. Before that, let me introduce ourselves. I'm Josh Griffey, the host. This is my co-host.
I'll be honest with you. If you have never listened to this show and you have chosen this episode,
yes,
you don't
Alex
know who we
will
are.
Jerk you off.
I'm impressed.
Line them up, thousands in a row. Alex is going down the line.
Not only am I impressed, but you are in for a fucking treat, and you will listen to the rest of this month because Damien Omen II is an absolute banger, and I cannot wait to talk about it.
I think we could make the case it's one of the best, if not the best, horror sequel of all time. Neither here nor there. Before that, a little business. Everyone, please, 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 especially this month, go join our show on patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. As we said, there's a pod every day this month. 3 of them are over on Patreon for our best friends over there exclusively. We would love for you to join. It's not that much money, but guys, every little bit helps shows like us, right? I think at the $5 tier, you'll get the commentary, which is going to be House, an absolutely insane film. That's our feature-length commentary. The patrons are voting and selecting on what exclusives they want this month. It's going to be a blast. It helps us out so much. For pods like us, it is truly the lifeblood that keeps us reviving, Jason style. So please, again, that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Go subscribe to the YouTube Film Alchemist. We're on all the socials you're on, including TikTok. Means the world to us there. Great way for no money to help shows like us, help spread the word. Something we're asking this month, guys, if you could reach out to your horror-loving friends. Just when you hear an episode of this, message 5 people you know that love horror movies and have them join us on the adventure. That means the world to us, too. Great way to help. Make sure you're leaving ratings and reviews. That always helps us out algorithmically on whatever podcatcher you listen to. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Make sure you're checking out my movies. We're doing this way in advance. So I don't know, but we could be in the midst of the crowdfunding campaign for my first feature film, Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole. Pappy back there is one of the stars of one of the segments of our horror anthology. So go over to misfitparade.net to keep up with all the news on our first feature film. That would mean the world to us. Make sure you go check out the work I'm doing over at Looper, where you can see me and my torso talking on video about movies. That's it! All right, we're not here for business, man. We're here to fucking burn the dark candles. We're here to kneel before the desolate one. A rich, punk-ass teenager. So The Omen is obviously an absolute classic of the horror genre. You got your Gregory Peck. You've got your Richard Donner. Truly has become absolutely iconic. Amazing kills. As we'll learn throughout, the Omen was really kind of the proto Final Destination. It's just 70s, like, square Catholic Final Destination. Some of the great kills in this series. Just wonderful, wonderful stuff. But you had your Gregory Peck, your Richard Donner. There was an aura about the Omen. There was a power right to that movie. I don't know that Damien the Omen II is all the way as electric as part one. But I will say,
No.
just because you don't have the top tier talent per se that one has, and it's not fresh. One of the hardest things for a horror sequel is once the first one is kind of gassed the idea, how do you add to the mythology? How do you find your own legs? How do you find a reason to continue to explain away why we need more of these? And I think on that front, Damien has some additions to the franchise. There are moments in this film that truly are as good, if not better, than the first one.
I think what's really unique about Omen 2, like Damien does this. Damien does something that I think a lot of horror franchises, especially that are like Antichrist horror franchises. Antichrist? I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that. I don't really care, to be honest with you.
He is the Antichrist, yeah.
Right, anti or anti, I never know really. But either way, I think the uniqueness of the Omen lends itself to sort of this like holistic approach to becoming the Antichrist. Because, when we enter this movie, Damien still is not aware of who he is. He's just some kid who happens to know a lot of shit. Like he's got his shit together. Like they're in military school. He basically, he lives with his aunt and uncle.
Right, Gregory Peck's brother adopts him after the carnage at the end of the first
great
one.
William Holden, which again, like I don't know about everyone else. Like, so William Holden was like this major sex symbol in like the 40s and 50s.
Oh, he was still trying to sling in this movie, dude. You see an old gunslinger never loses it all the way.
I mean, but he became, especially in his later years, like he became to me like one of the really great like older character actors. Mm-hmm. He's wonderful. I truly think he's an absolutely wonderful actor. But it's really cool to see William Holden in this movie. But I think what's interesting about the way the Omen handles this is that they do it in a way where very briefly, like it doesn't take very much time, but they do this thing where he is too burdened with purpose. It is a lot like the Bible, like the inverse of the Bible, or a 13-year-old.
This is the Jesus, right?
Like, yeah,
like
same thing.
Why me?
Okay, so why me?
This is kind of the biggest thing to unpack in the film, right? I love, because we kind of start the movie out in like, Egypt or wherever. We're doing kind of an opening of The Exorcist, right? It adds some flavor. It adds some expanding world. The opening kill I thought was really fun. Like that scares the shit out of me. I'm claustrophobic as hell. I would never be in tunnels like that. This is why. We see Damien's face, right? It kind of adds to the size of this world, right?
Yeah, basically.
And you start to worry when it just goes, and 7 years later in checks notes, Chicago. And you're like, ooh, boy. Ooh, this is a step down from kind of the loftiness of part one. But it's fucking great. And to your point, the cast is littered with wonderful actors. But again, I think what this one does that is so fucking fascinating is you start watching the movie and you start wondering, when does Damien understand his mission? Because clearly things have been happening around Damien. Yeah. You get the sense, because we're kind of building this world, right? Like we see the Satanists pretty early. They're not hiding themselves. They're infecting the run.
By the way,
we see
the Satanists are everywhere apparently, and not putting it under the rug at all.
I'm just saying, whoever's recruiting for the International Satan Squad, don't just get people that are always cunts. Like, you know what I mean? Throw in a Betty White, like a Lake Placid Betty White, where she can come off as like a nice old, like every single person in this movie. It's really on Front Street that something's not, like, this is Lance Hendrickson when he had only crossed his first 10,000 cigarettes.
Yeah.
So he even still sounds normal, but you see him immediately and you go, that's not right. And then the guy, he's like, wow, we worked really hard to find this business, bro. And he's like, you know how we make money? Famine. And you're like, yep, Satanist, check. Like, we're not even hiding it.
Check mark for sure. Good.
Yeah. How about the stepmom who just joined the family, and every time someone brings up Damien, she goes into full hysterics?
Now, hang on. I do think the only one who actually is able to keep it under the rug is the stepmom, and it's because she has the guise of stepmotherness. The rest of them are on Front Street because, like, none of them have cover other than being like,
I mean, I get, but this
Satan.
This was like 70s stepmom. This was before it was just its own category on the hub.
Yeah, this was like a
so there's a
Susan
different
Lucci
kind of
stepmom.
momness there.
You can again, this is like enough under the rug where you
Dude,
can't
if you
tell
remade
at the beginning.
Damien right now, that stepmother role gets wild.
That's,
What do you think a stepmother for the son of Satan does in 2024? I'll tell you what, she's getting stuck in everything, throwing it back. Damien's mom's all of a sudden a 22-year-old Instagram influencer.
Of all the of all the Satanists that we learn are clearly Satanists in this movie, though, my favorite is still the guy who works with his uncle. He is like so upfront about it, and I'm like, dude, no one should be surprised that this guy is revealing himself here. He is literally like
he's essentially
constantly.
when mom says we have Garfunkel at home, and he's just like not at all masking. When you start off and your plan is our future is not electronics and all this, our future is to buy land and starve everyone to death. And there's this old timer, right, who works at the fucking plant, Bill Atherton, and he's like, we'll make food slaves of them. It's unethical. And it's funny because you look back and you're like, oh, this is a time, because the Thorns are almost like this Trumpian New York family, right?
Very much so.
And you think back and you're like, oh, there was a time when that didn't mean you had to be a cunt. Like, you might have, like, a slight bit of ethics, and then all of a sudden it's like, you see, like, they're all going to be cocks. That might have been a movie invention. Maybe they were all cocks all along. If you read history, it feels like they were.
I think the, like, knockoff Garfunkel guy is, like, not only is he, like, trying to monetize famine, but then, like, the other thing he does at the birthday party for the cousin, they have, like, this huge fireworks display, and he's like, Damien, come talk to me. And it's like, cool, yeah, just bring one kid. I'm like, everyone thinks you're a creep now anyways.
If you're a Satanist, you don't want to get tagged with possible pedo as well, dude. Like, stay cool, dude.
Stay in one lane, my man. Like, come on.
Yeah, calm it down. Hey, is everyone watching the baller fireworks? No, not Garfunkel. Fucking drag your nephew into the other room
very
alone.
Quiet conversation by fireside with Damien.
Yeah, what is happening?
Okay.
Yeah. I think if there's a retroactive sense of the movie, which you can't blame the movie for, I was waiting for the great Lance Hendrickson scene, but he wasn't that guy yet.
Yeah, he's not that guy. Yeah.
But I was waiting for that. That's not a fault of the movie. That's just like some people go on to be like these beloved character actors. Anywho, back to the Satanists decide, and they're just like fucking horrendous ruses. Just not clever at all, not hiding. Satanist, you got to fucking learn.
You got to put it under the rug.
Phrase down low. You got to be on the down low, dude.
Down low.
I mean, it's almost as bad as that fucking nanny from part 1, but the most interesting addition to this film.
Baylock? Yes.
Yeah.
What a super undercover name you have there. Why don't you just call yourself
I don't know why
Satan?
every time I watch that movie, she reminds me of when they brought in Macho Man to South Park to play Strong Woman. It's like, oh yeah, I'm Baylock. I'm here to do the nanny. I don't know why I just hear that voice. Baylock's just like a tough name. All right, Satanist aside. I do think the most interesting segments in the movie, and I think what makes it such a worthy sequel, right? Because again, we'll get to like the sequel rankings later, but I think what is so fascinating about this is watching. It's rare that in a possession, exorcism, Antichrist movie, we see the actual focal point of horror. This movie's called Damien, right? He is the evil force of the movie.
Yeah.
But we're watching him, and again, we'd already seen the first movie where that kid who played Damien in part 1 was like, it was impossible for him to unfuck his face where he didn't look evil as shit, even as a toddler, right? Or however old he fucking was, 4. He just looks evil the whole time. So Damien has this classic, like, Malfoy, school bully, rich prick kind of thing. Which already makes everyone in this movie hateable as shit to me. Like, the whole movie, I just kept going, fucking rich people.
Yeah.
Neither here nor there. Watching Damien realize what's happening, right? Realize there's that great scene when he reads the book of Revelation and he sprints off. He doesn't know what to do. We've already watched him use his scanner powers on the offensive lineman bully. So he knows something's off. He knows something's different. He knows about what happened with his father before. And when he's given context, there's this moment where it's kind of an interesting moment in the film. I don't know what you thought, but he doesn't even really have a moment where he goes, oh, this is what? Like the book of the beast. Yeah, like a teenage boy reading the Bible, you think there'd be more confusion, but you watch it click.
Yeah. No,
and to me, that fully accepting lets us know that he's known something for a long time, which puts all this extra character work in of how he's trying so hard with Mark and the other kids.
Well, so that conversation he has with Lance Hendrickson is one of the, again, Lance Hendrickson.
Irony where Lance Hendrickson's like, dude, you got to be chill. Really?
not to say, because it's hard. I did watch this last night trying to recontextualize Lance Hendrickson. Because, now it's very different. Like, for us in 2024, you're like, obviously Lance Hendrickson's the Satanist.
Yeah,
but
obviously.
In what, when is this, 1970, 78 or something like that? Like, whatever year in the...
1978, nailed it.
Oh, okay, cool. So in wow, I pulled that one out of my ass. In 1978, Lance Hendrickson was just an actor. Like, you're not thinking about it in that way. So, when he starts being like, hey, you should read the book of Revelations. It's a revelation for you. Like, you're watching a scene where
personal revelation,
why is this fucking guy just, putting it out there like that? My God. You can't say, why is Lance Hendrickson doing it?
He's like, I thought you said I was middling in military history. I crush it. Now I'm getting more homework. This is bullshit, dude.
Yeah. I think what I like the most about... Because, again, we don't have to do this whole, oh, I don't believe it. He does have a great, again, the kid has a really great moment. He runs out in the water screaming, why me? I
love that moment.
Which is great because, again, you're in a movie where people are dying and you're like, oh, this poor kid, that's such a burden. I'm like, wait a second. It's the fucking Antichrist.
Well, there's moments, right, where when he screams, why me? There are moments in the movie where we see him have that, Damien, resting bitch face, right? Or he sees someone and something happens, right? He's essentially got this, crow that's hovering around just fucking handling business, right? And so...
Love that crow.
There's some element to where this movie also shows us that dark forces are working through and compelling Damien, right? That why is he a star at football? Why is he so smart? Why is he naturally good at... So there's this extra sad layer that we see that this boy is not in charge of his own journey. Yeah. And that when we know the destination for him, which is to be the desolate one, bring about all of these prophecies from Revelation, this, that, and the other, and meet an untimely end, he's not going to win according to the book.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing all of these Antichrist movies leave out, is that when he brings about the prophecies, he's still going to lose. God's still going to... Yeah, God is all-powerful and can shut this down at any time. He just chooses not to, because apparently... God loves Rube Goldberg style murders. God's just up there fucking crushing popcorn and loving it. That. But there's this extra sad watching a young person just realize that they have no control over their life. There's an extra empathy you have with this fucking monster at the core of the movie.
Well, it happens twice in the movie where you this empathy is revealed. You're like, shit. It's that. It's his revelation of who he is, and then the thing with his cousin Mark.
So I'm so glad you brought this up, because I think the Mark scene is the best scene in either of these movies. I think the Mark scene to me is better and more powerful than anything in the first Omen movie, 100%. Which sounds like sacrilege. But again,
no, but this is wrong.
This is the moment of, because his cousin also immediately accepts it. He knows something's off. And I love that bit where he's like, Mark, come with me. Because he's saying, he's like, say it, Mark. And Mark says it, and he's like, okay, you got me, dude. But we're best friends. You're a brother. The beast has no brother. And he's like, just come with me. Yeah. Don't make me beg. Come with me. This is the moment where we see the last small shred of a human boy grappling with what is before him, right? He truly does love this cousin. He loves him. And
Mark and him are close.
I mean, that scene to me just It's
awesome.
It's
a great scene in a horror movie.
Yes.
You're like, what is happening? But you're like, this guy, like, this is the devil being like, dude, can we just be friends still? Like, it's gonna, like, this is what is about to happen to me is so hard. I don't want to lose the one person that is like truly valuable to me in this world.
Well, it's this great, like, I have great things to do, but what does it matter if it, like, there's so many movies about the great man. And they're all about how everything around them gets destroyed and ripped apart. That's what this, like, what's the point of being the king of this new apocalyptic world?
Even
if you don't
Mark
have
points
a friend
out, he's like, dude, you lose. What do you want me to do? Like, this sucks. And I'm like, he's not wrong. Like,
yeah, and so this moment too, this is the kind of thing though that sequels can do, where now we're getting the extra weight of an entire other film to sell this moment, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful weapon that this movie has. But that moment when he's begging Mark, he's like, please don't do this. And Mark's like, suck my little balls.
Yeah.
I do think in retrospect that maybe Mark, had he been at the dance, the cotillion, and he saw all the fucking poon that was in Damien's future, like apparently that guy's got Wolverine pheromones. If he saw all the strange that Damien was pulling, years before it's ready.
He might have gone along.
Yeah, he probably would have been like, God, there's a lot of like 14-year-old girls trying to do some weird shit. This is unacceptable. But Mark might have been like, you know what? I'm going to ride this thing out.
I'm going to ride this out.
Like brain aneurysm or having more girls on me than the Beatles. Like, I might try this. But that moment, not to take the piss out of it, that moment is great. Yeah. Mark's like, wait, you had 3 girls at the cotillion? Tell me more. I'm listening. There's a teenage boyness in all of us that would have been like, Dr. Fraser Crane, I'm listening. Right? I'm listening. Tell me more. Yeah.
What am I going to get out of this?
Let me get a brandy and listen to this offer. Let's see my compensation package. But that moment where I wondered in this moment too, and it's kind of, again, the greatest part of the movie is when Mark is killed by the brain aneurysm. It's clearly a force running through Damien.
Yeah.
I don't know that in that moment that was Damien. Because when it stops and he sees Mark crumpled up, I feel like that was an earnest, Mark, no. Like, I feel like he's actually distraught, realizing Mark's destroyed. And again, it highlights the powers of hell could be a thing that are guiding and channeling him. So he is the conduit and the vessel.
I don't think he did it. I don't think he did it. I think, it's like the powers of hell, and he's just having to witness it. But
imagine that moment. That's a crushing moment when you're like, "Fuck, I can't even stop."
Like, I am alone.
I'm supposed to be the motherfucking guy,
I'm fully alone,
and I can't save Mark. Yeah, I thought that moment is
awesome
fucking
awesome scene. Fantastic.
It's incredible. Like such a, and again, that's the joy of this film is that Damien is no longer just, in the first one, Damien's just like every parent's nightmare, like a little shitty-faced kid that's making your life hard everywhere, right? In this one, Damien becomes a fully formed character. Essentially, it's the scene in a movie where you see the warrior reluctantly pick up the blade. The warrior just so happens to be, the desolate one. So that's really fucked up. But I think the journey is so satisfying in a way that you don't fully expect, especially in something called Damien, where he's the main focal point. It's such a nice turn to let him kind of be, because really it's a Richard Thorne's story, but we get a lot of that point of view of Damien and him grappling with this and testing his powers, right? The scene at the plant where the generator blows up and the gas is leaking, that's one of those first scenes where we see him walking out and staring down Not Garfunkel. And you're like, oh, he's taking it for a spin now. Like, he's starting to enjoy playing with this, right? And that yo-yo effect of, oh, this could be really fucking fun, to, oh my God, this could cost me Mark.
Well, I think that's what's interesting about this, though, is like, that scene juxtaposed versus the Mark scene is really fascinating, because it's like, that scene is about him. That scene is revealing sort of his dominion in a lot of ways, like that thing where you're like, oh shit, that is like the fucking guy being
that's
like,
who we expect him to be the whole movie.
You're like, what's up, peon? You're gonna do what I do from now on.
When you play the rich prick Malfoy character, we expect that you don't have a soul, right? That's how movies train us a lot.
Right. Mark,
not him.
The Mark scene is about like the Mark scene is that like last it's like that last stop. It's like, oh, maybe I can do this differently and like not wind up, a grease stain at the end of it. But also, like, I would like a friend who I can like talk about what it's like being the devil.
Like, I've got all these fucking henchmen around. Why can't I have like my boy with me?
Why can't I have like a friend who maybe might not agree with me all the time? You're like, well, that's a very good, I really do think that the value of this movie, like the critical value, is that you have moments like that in this movie, because I don't know many other demonic possession movies or anything like that, maybe other than like Emily Rose, where you have these like moments, like those last stop moments, you're like, do you really want this?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a choice, but do you really want this? Like, it's a really moving moment for a movie that shouldn't be that moving, and also has like some hysterical kills in it.
Okay, so that's the other thing, right? If the movie has a flaw, right, to me, it's that it needs a little more propulsion, right? Because we've done the Omen journey, right? We know what's happening in this movie. There's a lot of rich whites like playing with their toys in the snow.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't need to see them riding a horse. I don't need to see them snowmobiling. And like, I had a feeling this was going to be your complaint for some reason. It's like, can we just speed this up a hair, right? To me, it's the only complaint I have in the movie is that it really takes its sweet time to the point where I think the pacing is off in this movie at times.
I'll tell you.
And I wish there was more Lance Henriksen retroactively.
This is something that I think is, because I agree with you in theory. But I think the narrative value of them, like, because I agree, like, they sacrifice a lot of pacing for like throwing snowballs and shit like that. Like, that's the stuff that could not be. But I think because of that, there's a how do I put this? To me, the sacrifice of pacing to humanize Damien, even amidst all the Rube Goldberg-like murders that keep happening around him, that absolutely no one keeps just like raising eyebrows about. Like, nobody is like, oh, geez, that sucks. Like, everyone just moves on from death so quickly in this movie that I'm just like, guys, clearly something is going on and you need to address it. But I think
for sure.
I think that the like sacrifice of pacing to humanize not just Damien, but like everything around him, so he is normal. Like, he feels like a normal person who is like quietly becoming burdened by this, prophecy he has to carry. I agree with that. I actually think makes like that scene for that Mark scene, which is the best scene in the whole franchise, to be honest with you. That Mark scene has so much more weight because we've spent time and sacrificed pacing to see Damien and Mark just be kids, like, be friendly.
Okay, so that's a little bit where I think we're diverging. All the stuff that lets us breathe with Damien and Mark, I agree with. I think the problem is that we do too much Richard Thorne and not enough Mark Thorne. Like him going to the office and just chewing out, half a Garfunkel about how he bought land in India and didn't tell us. Or when not Garfunkel and D'Artagnan, that's a Three Musketeer, I don't even know his name, whatever his name is, the guy who comes back from India. Don't interrupt my Mark and Damien story with that kind of business world shit.
I'll give you
You're setting up the stakes. Yeah, like, I don't need the old man Bill fucking ripping Paul Newman about ethics for the 6th time. Like, that's the shit where the movie starts. Again, I think if it was more focused on Mark and Damien.
Yeah. I'm not talking about Richard
you could essentially stuff. Mark is like a non-factor in this film.
Yeah. I'm not talking about
when you see the Mark scene,
that's
when No, I agree. I just think if they had peeled back the kind of business angle of it,
sure,
and really kind of honed in a little more Child's Play 2 style on the military academy and Mark's realization.
I think the other thing too is there's these little seeds planted, ironically, given that we're talking about famine. There are these little seeds planted about like what it is that they do. What it is that they do is like
it feels like a world building investment for sure.
But I also could not imagine caring less about those seeds. Like, they are so inconsequential to the movie moving forward or throughout.
Yeah.
Other than
it's like they didn't go full Exorcist 2 like the Locust thing, but like you're like you are starting to veer away from what makes this movie awesome.
other than being told what that toxic chemical does when it turns those guys into the Phantasm guy, other than that, could not matter less. Like, it's just...
Yeah, and so, again, that's the problem. You have William Holden, who apparently they wanted to be Gregory Peck in part 1. So they're like, oh, we'll give you a chance to do that role again. It's just one of those, you wonder if it had been like Richard Donner, maybe a director with a little more heft.
Sure.
Right? If he could have, focused the story a bit more. Because I do think the swapping out Mark and Richard at times makes this thing fucking sore, really, right? And so that's a small complaint. It's not a big deal. And, actually, I'm looking right now. Don Taylor has a great career, too. So I'm not trying to insult Don Taylor, right? He's got the original 77 Dr. Moreau, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Stalag 17, Final Countdown, good stuff.
Like, there's no insult to be made. It's just...
He doesn't have the fucking... the heft of Richard Donner. But I will say this. So the best thing in the movie is watching Damien grapple with his birthright. The thing I could use less of in the movie is everything involving Thorn Industries. Sure. It's kind of like Thorn Industries, not Garfunkel, the museum. It's like there's a lot of adult shit crowding out my Damien grappling with his cousin, right? I wanted a little more good son, Macaulay Culkining.
That's a good way to put it.
That's how I'd phrase it, because the pacing does suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing this movie has is just fucking righteous kill after righteous kill. I'll say this. The elevator scene, so I was explaining this to my son. My son's watched this with me. That elevator scene is one of my favorite kills in horror movie history. Because one, it's got the classic Final Destination misdirect, right? Which is you think he's going to die from just getting squashed at the bottom of the elevator.
Yeah.
When he doesn't, the shot before of the weights like flinging up, they always put the pieces in where you can see it before. When that thing comes down and cuts his ass in half, that is one of the fucking greatest horror movie kills. Because the first movie had the what was it? David Warner's head getting cut off. By
David
the glass.
Warner's head getting chopped off.
That's like
sweet.
One of the best kills. This I think is pretty awesome too.
It's pretty dope.
They're fucking bringing the thunder, dude. I love the guy getting crushed by the train. I also was like, there's a bit of an Austin Powers vibe with these kills where it's like a long run up and chanting.
Okay.
And it's like, I feel like you should not be staring at the back of the train car. You should be scanning your perimeter. I think that's a little on you.
The elevator shaft is by far like my favorite.
That's the kill. I mean, that might be the best kill in the franchise.
The one, and I texted you last night because this is where I was watching it. So there's this journalist lady who starts. You're already.
She just sees Damien take his helmet off, and she's like, "Oh!"
It's fucking hilarious. Again, all of these are like every death in this movie is like, oh boy, how about coincidence, huh? You're like, no, how about not? All of these.
Well, they even say it's like she got killed by a semi on a deserted highway, and I was like, Satanist, you have to fucking play it cool.
Put it together, guys.
Well, it's also like it's like and her face and eyes were scratched out by a bird. Like Satanist, we know you have the power of brain embolism. Why are you like? Have you not seen the show Death Note? Write the name and they just get a heart attack. If people start dying in what? Yeah, the guy who was ratting out Damien got caught in a train car coupling.
That's weird.
Like weird.
Have you noticed that everyone who doesn't like Damien dies horrifically?
Yeah, there's that one guy who frantically just said Jackal on the phone, and he got checks notes chopped in half by elevator weights. Like, dude.
Like Richard Thorne is. I'm like, how is this guy a multi-millionaire? He's never putting the pieces together
because he is a rich guy who's been at the top of the ladder. He's got dudes to do this shit for him.
Okay, so the journalist who sees Damien, she's like, because she like, okay, it's.
She fights that crow like it's They Live. Like, get on with it. What are you doing?
When I was a kid, when I saw this movie. Something about it just was so like hat on a hat because like, okay, so the crow comes in, pecks her eyeballs out, and she's like, my eyes, oh God. You're like, oh shit, that is fucking brutal.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, and then she's like left on the side of the highway, okay? You're like, oh shit, dead.
Logan said that. He goes, at least she's in the ditch and not the road. And I go, yeah, hold your breath.
So she falls in the ditch. You're like, oh, okay, cool. All right, well, she's dead. And then the semi goes.
When they fucking
and
throw
she
that blow-up doll over the track.
So not only that, like, again, I don't know about you, and I think we've talked about this. Like, I fucking love 70s blood in movies. Like, whatever that redness is that they figured out. Like, and again, like, it never looks real.
I refer to that
like,
as Giallo red. They were the masters of like the
like that
reddest
Giallo
reds.
red is just so much fun. But yeah, so she gets up out of the ditch, and
She's blind. She's like, "Arr!"
yeah, like
Yeah, I guess he pecked her eardrums out too. She didn't hear the 18 wheels barreling down. But
so
dude,
she gets hit by the semi, but like the dummy they have that hits like the back of the back of the carriage. I was like,
yeah, it's a blow up doll. Like that thing got hit and just
amazing.
went up. I was like, it didn't get run
Amazing.
over. I feel bad because this movie has so many exceptional kills. Like even when the old man goes under the lake, you're like, that's a fucking terrifying,
fucking horrifying
scene.
That's some claustrophobia right there.
Like that really
That
got
one
me,
I was-
right? The two dudes in the tunnel at the start of the movie was great. That old man's still spitting, right? And you will lose. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. And then in the middle of this, you just get this fucking blow-up doll getting bounced around the road. You're like, that one could have used a little work, but I love it on a funny personal level.
Yeah, you're just still like.
But you're like,
entertained
one of
as
these
hell.
things is not like the other. The train coupling was amazing.
Awesome.
Like that like hurts your body to watch. Again, go back and watch that scene. The first image we see in that train yard, train coupling smashing together. And then they try to divert your attention with the overhead container. Like it's going to... They're so clever in how they roll these out.
Love this. Yeah, I love the proto Final Destination kill stuff.
It's Final Destination for sure. It's just
awesome.
like, you know, anytime someone talks shit, it's inevitable they're going to get it. The doctor getting gassed wasn't that creative. But I'll tell you one. Okay, so not creative at all, but a moment I fucking loved. One of the kills I really like. I love when she turns and just stabs his ass.
Yeah. Oh my god.
She's trying to protect. She's doing the last bastion of like, how do you not know I'm a Satanist, right? He's like, you've been tamed by the sweet cheeks, and she's like, please don't do it. And she goes, here's your daggers. She stabs his ass, and he has this real moment of like, no. It's almost like he's finally now accepting it was all real, and how for a guy like that to have a moment of like pure powerlessness is really great. And she has that fucking line. She goes, I was always his. And I was like, yeah, dude, that
so
fucking
weird.
moment rips. And then Damien's like, but you didn't get caught in the dishwasher enough. And fucking annihilates her with the fireball. He's like, yeah, we wouldn't want to now start leaving possibly hard to explain death scenes. That's the one death scene. He's like, I better clean this one up. I was like, woman kills her rich husband's the only explainable death in the whole movie. That is a tale as old as time, brother.
Woman bursts into flames. That happens like once a century, my man. Yeah. Like, it's not going to
Stepmom
work.
finds out rich husband was diddling a library curator, stabs his ass. Makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense.
Lady gets her eyes ripped out and then blow up dolled over a truck. That's harder to explain.
That's a harder one to swallow.
Where were your fireballs then, sir? Like, she couldn't have been smoking in her car and caught on fire. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that kill was rad. So again, in summation, I think what is so fucking awesome is that the journey of Damien in this movie is the kind of thing that you strive for when you're making a worthy sequel. Expand and add to the mythology in the world. This one does that, right? We kind of set it in this ancient prophecy stuff we see at the start of the movie. We tie it back to, there's evidence now from Gregory Peck that's coming back in. We get to actually watch Damien and grapple with him. Even though it kind of slows the movie down, we start to see the Satanists laying their best laid plans for how Damien will ascend to power through this Thorn Industries.
Yeah.
Even that, right? Even knowing Thorn Industry, when it's like, someday you'll inherit this company. It's like, what about Mark? And you're like, oh, fuck, Mark's going to get it. It is good stuff, right? And then the kills are fucking amazing. The kill scenes in this with the chants. There's very few things in horror movies that rev me up, like a Gregorian chant in The Omen when you know someone's about to get got. So I think this is such a worthy and wonderful sequel. I don't expect sequels to recapture the lightning that is the first bite at the creative apple of a horror story, right? Like, when you get to empty the chamber first, it's harder to do the sequel. And this was before every horror franchise was, like, Universal and Hammer was doing horror franchises.
Yeah. But this was before the sequel became.
Let me run you through some lists, right? Greatest horror sequels. Where do you think this one ranks? I think Bride of Frankenstein is kind of universally considered one of the best horror sequels. Do you think this is better as a sequel than The Bride of Frankenstein? Which is not the streamlined missile that people remember it to be, by the way.
Never assumed Bride of Frankenstein was a sequel. I just assumed it was another movie. But I do think Damien ranks at least in the top 3 best.
All right, so let me run these off, and you just say higher or lower. Bride of Frankenstein.
Higher.
Evil Dead 2.
Dude, I can't do like the same.
That's the easiest one. Lower. Evil Dead 2 might be the best sequel, right? That one's so good. Halloween 2. That's the hospital.
Higher.
Friday the 13th 2. That's Hillbilly Jason. Potato Sack.
That's Hillbilly Jason. Higher.
Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
That's a hard one because I really love number 2. I'd say like level.
Okay, then you got Hellraiser 2. This is Julia coming back, and Dr. Dickhead.
I know, Dr. Dickhead. Come on, man. Higher. Damn it.
Texas Chainsaw 2, way fucking higher. I'll just do that one for you. So that's what I'm saying. If you start looking at the great horror,
it's
Scream
hard.
2. Scream 2.
Scream 2 is pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
Lower than Scream 2.
See, that one's not really adding a ton. So this is what I mean. If you're going through like what are the best horror franchise sequels, I think it would be hard for most people to make the case Evil Dead 2 is not the premier sequel.
It's the best It's the best horror sequel.
It's probably the best number 2 horror movie ever. I mean, even Jaws 2 is really fun. I don't think it's as successful as this. So if you're putting, let's say, Evil Dead 2, Bride of Frankenstein, and then like maybe Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which is kind of a newer idea. Yeah. Oh yeah, The Exorcist 2, dog shit.
Let me just do that for everyone.
Yeah, so this is like second, third best horror sequel.
It's definitely top 5. Like it
would be interesting to run through and be like, where do these number 2s rank? I mean, other than Evil Dead, I think you could make a case this does the most to help build and embolden and enrich the franchise out of the number 2s.
It's not just a rehash. There is like stuff going on that actually makes the world worth watching again.
You just nailed it. That is exactly the importance of a sequel. It has to feel familiar and what we liked about the first, but it has to fucking be additive. And all the best ones are additive and not a rehash. And this one absolutely is. What a great start to the October Mega Marathon. Cannot be more excited to do the Omen franchise. If you're with us, our guest friend, essentially our co-host at this point, the lady we call when we need all the help, Carmelita Valdez McCoy, one of the best in the game. One of the best people we've ever met.
Best in the biz.
She is doing the X trilogy with me, right? That's X, Pearl, Maxine. And then all the Critters franchise. So the Omen, X, Critters. Those are the franchises we have for now. The schedule in October is always very movable because we have a lot of guests and moving parts, so we're trying to figure everything out. The feature-length commentary exclusively on patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod will be House. I believe it was originally Houseu. That is a fucking bananas movie. I can't wait to watch with you guys. So much great stuff coming up, guys. Please. Oh, and Alien Romulus. We're going to try to knock out some franchises. The newest Candyman movies on our list is a possible fill-in because we like to complete full franchises. So if they come out with a new one, we add it in. Yeah, we like to have our franchises all the way covered. So, again, guys, if you could help us out, this month is everything to us. If you're hearing this and you enjoyed the talk, you enjoy horror movies, message personally 5 of your friends, right? Let them know what we're doing. Let's Ponzi scheme this thing out. Get new listeners in, especially for this month, man. I want every one of these episodes to be our most popular. I think there's a dynamic energy in October that we really try to capture, and that starts with you. So patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. Share everything on your socials. Go to TikTok, blow those up. Go to YouTube, subscribe over there. Ask your friends to subscribe to Film Alchemist. Personally reach out to friends. 5-star ratings and reviews. All of these things help us out a ton. Make sure you go to misfitparade.net. Maybe .com by the time you hear this. We got proposition to buy a domain.
Ooh.
By some shady person who's just a domain buyer and reseller.
Oh,
turd.
Nice. Even better.
Fucking turds. we could be in the midst of crowdfunding our very first feature film. So someday some other podcasters will talk about the dumbass movie that I've made. That's Pappy back there, Pappy's old stiffy, one of the segments for Mr. Cream Jean's Hidey Hole. We could use your help getting that film made. It's a real love letter to anthology horror and weird shit in general. Make sure you check out the work over at Looper, right? You'll see the face. By the way, everyone at Looper who calls me, who says I'm just mad I don't get to play Aquaman anymore, or that I'm Wish.com Jason Momoa, I get it.
Nicest.
Thanks.
I mean, wow. Also, what a compliment.
No, it's definitely like a Jason Momoa sad cousin that just rips darts and tells people he's related. But they've really latched on to this.
Hey,
like
that guy's living a
dunking
great
on me.
life too, Griff. That
He
guy's
is.
living a great
He's living
life.
a great life. And we're living a great life because it's October. 31 days, 31 pods. We cannot wait to do this journey with you. We will see you tomorrow for the Omen 3. I believe it's Final
The
Conflict.
final conflict.
Which is not true, says the Omen 4. And the
Yeah.
reboots. And the first
And the
Omen's
first
before.
Omen.
Anyways, I am fucking pumped. This is the best time of the year. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.
We'll see you tomorrow.